हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम टू माय चैनल। दिस इज सीए राखी अग्रवाल। आज का हमारा टॉपिक है इंडियन अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड 109, 107 एंड 32 which talks about financial instrument. This is part 8. What we will discussed in the last videos. Let get a brief of that. We had discussed about the financial instruments. We had discussed about the equity. We had discussed about the financial asset. We had discussed about the financial liability, and we had also discussed about the difference in future forwards. We had also discussed about transaction cost, how it is to be implemented. We had also discussed about measurement principles of financial asset, liability and equity. We had also discussed about the recognition accounting treatments of financial asset, financial liability and equity. In case of financial instrument, we had also discussed with various examples, like in case of borrowings, in case of debtors, in case of different situations in liabilities, in case of different situations in asset like advances, loans, debtors, how it is to be accounted for. In case of also we had discussed about prepaid assets cases, we along with various examples. We had also discussed about the transaction cost along with definitions, how it is to be recognized in case of asset, in case of liability, in case of equity. Then we had also discussed about the situations like how it is to be accounted in case of compound financial instruments, in case of early redemption, how it is to be accounted. When then we had discussed transaction of non-financial instruments. Then we had the transaction of financial instruments. We had discussed various topics related to financial instruments, and some more topics are left yet to discuss. So in today's discussion, we will discuss about the derivative, how it is to be accounted for in different situations, like what is derivative, and in different underlying assets, how it is to be accounted as a financial instrument. So let's discuss our topic. So let's start our topic today. What is a derivative? Derivative is a financial instrument that derive its value from its underlying asset. And derivative is a topping on the underlying asset. It derives its value from the underlying asset. So example of derivatives are currency, forward contract, future contract, option, interest rate swaps are also a derivative. If there is a foreign currency contract, person purchase a currency. So it depends on the variables like foreign currency variables. If there is a change in foreign currency rate due to fair market value, means rate of dollar always change, rate of foreign currency always change. So it affects the currency contract, it affects the forward currency contract, it affects the future currency contract. If there is a change in share price, it will affect the future price, future contract, option contract. In case of if there is a change in interest rate from fixed to floating due to MIBOR, LIBOR. So if there is a change from fixed to floating or from floating to fixed, so it's a interest rate swap. So financial instrument includes derivative, but all derivatives are not financial instruments. Features of derivative means what are the characteristics or features of derivative? Derivative derive its value from an underlying asset. Underlying assets are currency, gold, wheat, shares. These are the underlying assets from which the derivative itself derives the value. Like value change due to change in underlying variables. What are underlying variables? Underlying variables are financial variables. For example, commodity price index, consumer price index, equity price index, foreign currency ratios. These are the underlying variables. If there is a change in consumer price index, if there is a fluctuation in market price index, share price index, foreign currency ratios, consumer price index, commodity price index. It will affect the currency, it will affect the underlying asset, it will affect the gold price, it will affect the wheat, it will affect the share price. Because if there is a change in underlying variables, like if there is a change in underlying variables, if there is a fluctuation in commodity price index, equity price index, consumer price index, foreign currency ratios, it will affect the underlying asset. It will change the underlying asset, like currency, gold, wheat, share. Value change due to change in underlying variables. Value of derivative changes due to change in underlying variables. Settlement happen at a future date at an agreed price. In case of derivative, always the settlement happen in a future date, not in present date. Settlement always happen at a future date at an agreed price. Means the price which is settled, which is decided today as per the contract, is to be settled in future. Means at an agreed price. Today we will decide the price, decide the quantity in the contract which is to be settled in future. So settlement always happens at future date at an agreed price which is decided today. At the time of making contract, initial amount paid will be nil or insignificant. Generally, at the time of making contract, there is no such payment is required, or whatever paid is just a it's just a token amount. It's insignificant amount, or it's just an insignificant or nil amount. So, what are the characteristics? It derives its value from the underlying asset. Settlement always happens at future date, which the price decided today, and initial amount paid will be nil or insignificant. At the time of making contract, no initial amount or margin money is required to be paid, or if paid, it will be insignificant. What is underlying variables? Underlying variables are financial variables. For example, like consumer price index, there is a change in consumer price index, there is change in commodity price index, there is a change in share price index, there is change in foreign currency ratio. So these are the variables. If these variables change, it affects the currency, it affects the commodity, it affects the share price, it affects the gold. So whatever the indexes are there, if the indexes changes, it will affect the asset. Now what is a non-financial variable? Like what is non-financial variable? Like if any damage occur due to natural disaster, like earthquake damage factory, if any these are the non-financial variable. If these variables occur, it will not affect the price, like index price, like commodity price, like any, it will not affect. But it's a non-financial variable, like earthquake damage the factory, fire damage the asset. So these are the other relevant, these are the non-financial variables. Other relevance point, like in case of interest rate swap, suppose in case of interest rate swap, where the bank has given, where you had entered into a contract, in case of in order to pay fixed rate of interest and receive variable rate of interest, this will be a derivative. You had entered into a contract. Means what is interest rate swap? If a person or any company enter into a contract in order to pay fixed interest rate and receive variable interest, so it's a kind of derivative that derives. This will be a derivative as the value is dependent on the variable interest rate swap. It's an interest rate swap from fixed to variables. So there is exchange of interest rate from fixed to variable. Means you will pay to the bank a fixed rate of interest, and where bank will pay you a variable interest rate in order to protect yourself from the market variability, from the interest rate variability. So this will be also a derivative as the value is dependent on the variable interest rate. Now, in what is also interest rate swap, like you are going to pay variable interest rate and you are receiving fixed rate of interest. Receipt of fixed rate of interest is in nature of loan will with fixed rate of interest. This will not be treated. Means if you are paying variable interest rate and receiving a fixed rate of interest, suppose you are receiving fixed rate of interest, so it is in the nature of loan with fixed rate of interest. You are receiving any amount which is fixed. So if fixed to fixed criteria meets, this will not be treated as a derivative. Means what is a derivative? Only if the person is going to pay fixed rate of interest and able to receive variable rate of interest, then that is the derivative. But if you are paying variable interest rate and you are receiving fixed, that is not a derivative. So paying fixed and receiving variable is a derivative. Paying variable and receiving fixed is not a sorry, paying fixed and receiving variable is a derivative. Paying variable and receiving fixed is not a derivative, because there is no such fluctuation. It does not depend on any underlying, because you are receiving a fixed rate. You know that you are receiving, there is no variability in that. So it's not a derivative. In case of option contract, what happen when the option is exercised or not? Whether the option is exercised or not, such contract will be a derivative contract. Means option is also a derivative contract. It depends on the holder whether he will exercise or not. Option is always favorable to the holder whether he will exercise the option or not. So in case of option contract, the option is exercised or not, it's depend on the holder, and such contract will be a derivative contract. So option contract is also a derivative contract. It's also depend on the holder whether he will exercise or not, if favorable to the holder. Now, another concept is, first concept we had discussed in case of interest rate swap. Then in case of option contract, then we will discuss about the concept of transaction in third currency. If any third currency, if any transaction is occurred in third currency, is also a derivative. Like you are making a contract in, you are an Indian company, your functional currency is an INR, and you are making contract with foreign company. You that foreign company's functional currency is in USD, but that foreign currency had make an agreement to pay, that you will pay in euro. So you are paying in a third currency. So if any payment is to be done by Indian company, and you had make a contract in any foreign company whose payment is in third currency like in euro, so that transaction is also treated as a derivative. Transaction in third currency is also a derivative. Like A Limited enter into a contract on 1st January 2023 with B Limited to purchase PPE. Means A Limited has entered into a contract with B Limited on 1st January 2023 in order to purchase the property, plant and equipment. The functional currency of A Limited, which is an Indian company, and B Limited, which is a foreign company, the functional currency of both the companies are in INR. Means the functional currency of A Limited and B Limited is in INR, means in Indian currency. However, the contract price is denominated in, means the functional currency of A and B is in INR, but the contract price denominated, but the contract is prepared in foreign currency. Means the amount is to be paid in foreign currency. The contract is to pay an amount in foreign currency in order to purchase the property, plant and equipment, that is in USD. So delivery of PPE means property, plant and equipment is to be delivered on 31st December 2023. Means the date of making a contract is in for 1st January 2023 and the delivery takes place on 31st December 2023. So the price of PPE will be based on the spot price. Means the foreign exchange fluctuation. The foreign exchange fluctuation depend on the spot price as on 31st December 2023. Means the contract which is prepared today for purchase of asset in future at an agreed price determined denominated in a foreign currency. So in these transactions, such financial instrument shall be derivative as the price of the contract changes due to change in foreign currency rates, because at the date of making the contract the foreign rate of foreign currency is something different, and on the date of delivering of the asset, that is on 31st December, the uh, rate of the foreign currency is something different. So the rate is fluctuated due to change in foreign currency rate. Foreign currency indexes, you can say. In these transactions, such financial instruments shall be derivative as the price of the contract price changes due to change in foreign currency rates, because the rate decided today is denominated in USD. So it affects the foreign currency exchange rate. So that transaction is treated as a derivative because it's a transaction is also called a third currency transaction, and it is also called a derivative. And another example is, suppose A Limited enter into contract on 1st January 2023 with B Limited for purchase of inventory. Functional currency of A Limited is INR and B Limited is Euro. So, suppose A Limited enter into a contract on 1st January 2023 with B Limited for purchase of inventories. The functional currency of A Limited is INR and B Limited is Euro. In this case, the functional currency of both A Limited and B Limited, buyer and seller, is different. In previous example, the functional currency of A Limited and B Limited is same, that is in INR, but the contract is denominated in USD. But in this case, the functional currency of A Limited and B Limited is different, that is the A Limited currency is in INR and B Limited functional currency is in Euro. But the contract price is denominated in USD, that is the third currency. The contract is made in third currency, that is in USD, and the functional currency of A Limited is in INR and functional currency of B Limited is Euro. So in these transactions, such financial instruments shall be derivative as the price of the contract contain three currencies, that is involvement of third currency is a derivative contract. In this case, there is an involvement of third currency. In the contract contain three currencies. So third currency there is, that is the involvement of third currency in a contract. So it is also a derivative. Type of derivative contract. Now liability derivative. What is a liability derivative? Like the exchange of financial instruments at potentially unfavorable condition. Exchange of financial instrument at potentially unfavorable condition, derivative contract which will be settled other than by way of fixed number of equity shares for fixed amount of consideration. So exchange of financial instrument that is potentially unfavorable, then that is a liability derivative, and the derivative which will be settled other than by way of fixed number of equity shares. If fixed to fixed criteria meets, then it is a financial, then it is not a financial liability, it is an equity. If other than fixed to fixed criteria, like in case of variable number of shares to be issued, an amount of consideration is not fixed, then it is a variable. The number of shares are also variable and consideration is also a variable. Then it is a liability derivative. If fixed to fixed criteria meets, then it is an equity derivative. So derivative contract which will be settled other than by way of, means other than by way of fixed number of equity shares for fixed amount of consideration, which means variable number of shares to be issued and amount of consideration is also variable, then it will be treated as a liability derivative. If fixed to fixed criteria meets, then it will be an equity derivative. And in case of liability derivative, fixed to fixed criteria get failed, then only it will be considered as a liability derivative. But in case of equity derivative, what is an equity derivative? Derivative contract which will be settled by issue of fixed number of equity shares for fixed amount of consideration. In case of equity derivative, the number of shares are fixed and amount of consideration is also fixed. Means fixed to fixed condition will get satisfied. Such equity derivative shall be accounted as equity instrument only. So, like we had discussed in case of liability, in case of equity, in the same way the derivative, liability derivative and equity derivative, like fixed to fixed criteria test meets, then only it will be treated as a equity derivative. If fixed to fixed criteria fails, then it will be treated as a liability derivative. Accounting of derivatives, like liability derivatives, how we will accounted the liability derivative, like in case of gain, the derivative asset account debit to gain on derivative contract. Means if there is a gain, then derivative asset is to be recognized, is to be debited, and any gain on derivative contract is to be credited, like is to be credited to P&L. Like derivative asset account debit by at fair value to gain on derivative contract, and that derivative gain is to be transferred to P&L as other income. And in case of loss, loss on derivative contract account debit to derivative liability, and that loss is to be debited to P&L expense account debit to loss on derivative contract at fair value. So in these way the accounting is to be done. Note: derivative needs to be fair value on each reporting date, that is on every reporting date, that is on financial reporting date, the derivative is to be recognized at fair value, that is mark to market is to be settled. Derivative needs to be accounted at fair value through profit and loss account category, means is to be always, derivative is always accounted through fair value through profit and loss account. Change in fair value of derivative will be recognized in P&L. Like we had discussed the derivative transaction, and if any asset held for trading, then that assets or that liabilities or that equities is to be routed through fair value through profit and loss account. Now accounting for derivative, how is to be done? Like in case of financial asset, in case of financial liability, always the derivative is to be routed through fair value through profit and loss account. And in case of equity, it should be valued at initial recognition. Now this is to be explained with the help of example. Suppose on 1st January 2023, S Limited agreed to purchase USD, means agreed to purchase $20,000 from bank in future to be settled in future on 31st 12 2023. Means S Limited had purchased a currency dollar from bank. They entered into a forward contract. So they want to, S Limited want to purchase $20,000 from bank, that is they want to settle, the contract is prepared for that is for 12 months, that is it will be settled on 31st December 2023, and the rate was decided on the date of making contract, that is rupees 68 per USD. Now, S Limited does not pay any amount upon entering into contract. Means at the initial stage, the payment is nil or insignificant. So, though no margin money is required to be paid, and S Limited is a limited company in India and prepares its financial statement on quarterly basis. So, they prepare their financial statement on quarterly basis. So, they have to report on quarterly basis. Following the principles of recognition and measurements as laid down in Index 109, you are required to record the entries for each quarter. Because quarterly financial statement is prepared, because it's a listed company, that's why they are preparing their financials on a quarterly basis. So they have to record all the entries on each quarter till the date of actual purchase, that is on 31st December 2023. So for the purpose of accounting, please use the following information representing mark to market fair value. This amount is the margin amount. It is in rupees, not in dollar. The value of contract at each reporting date, that is on 31st March 2023, it becomes 25,000 loss. At on 30th June it becomes 15,000 loss, and on 30th September it becomes 12,000 profit. So this will be the entry, and the spot rate on the rate of USD on 31st 12 2023 is rupees 66 per USD. So it becomes 66 per USD, and the date on that is on initial date when the contract is prepared, the dollar will be rupees 68 per USD, but the spot rate on 31st 12 2023 it becomes rupees 66 per USD. Now how we will recognize these changes in a currency, how we will recognize in the financial. Suppose S Limited enter a contract with bank on 1st January 2023 to purchase 20,000 USD, 68 on 31st 12. They had entered into a contract. It's a forward contract because they entered into a contract today in order to purchase that currency in future. The price is decided today at rupees 68 per USD, and the number of USDs, that is how many currency they will purchase, that is also decided. So the rate of USD on 31st 12 2023 becomes 66. So when the contract is prepared, the rate of USD is 68. Means at 68 rupees per USD they had entered into a contract. But actually on 31st December, the rate of USD falls down from 68 to 66. The contract is a derivative. Yes, it's a derivative because it derives its value from the underlying asset. Here, what is underlying asset? Here, currency is a underlying asset, and on that currency, the derivative is a topping on that currency. Like they will derive its value from that currency. Is settlement happen in future date? Yes, in this case settlement is happen in future date, that is on the contract is prepared on 1st January and the settlement happens on 31st December 2023. Is amount paid initially is nil or insignificant? Because no amount is paid initially, so it's fulfill all the conditions of derivative definition of derivative, so it's a derivative transaction. Therefore, it is a derivative contract as per the definition of derivative. Now, We will check whether it's a financial asset derivative, whether it's a financial liability derivative, whether it's a equity or non-financial item. How we will check that? Whether it is a financial derivative or it's a financial liability derivative. In case of asset, in case of gain, it becomes a financial asset derivative. In case of loss, it becomes a financial liability derivative. And whether it's a equity or non financial item, so we will check at initially only. That is, in case of equity, it is not an equity because settlement is not in own equity instrument. As in the definition of equity, it says that settlement happens in own equity shares. Settlement happen because the settlement happen in the exchange of currency, which depends on the currency price index. So settlement is happen on currency. That's why it is not an equity. It is not settled in own equity instruments. Whether it's a non-financial item, it is not a non-financial item because settlement happens in a currency, in exchange of currency. Now accounting for derivative, how is to be done? Like in case of financial asset, in case of financial liability, always the derivative is to be routed through fair value through profit and loss account. And in case of equity, it should be valued at initial recognition. Now this is to be explained with the help of example. Suppose on 1st January 2023, S Limited agreed to purchase USD, means agreed to purchase $20,000 from bank in future, to be settled in future on 31st 12 2023. Means S Limited had purchased a currency dollar from bank. They entered into a forward contract. So they want to, S Limited want to purchase $20,000 from bank. That is, they want to settle. The contract is prepared for that is for 12 months. That is, it will be settled on 31st December 2023, and the rate was decided on the date of making contract, that is rupees 68 per USD. Now, S Limited does not pay any amount upon entering into contract. Means at the initial stage, the payment is nil or insignificant. So, though no margin money is required to be paid, and S Limited is a limited company in India and prepares its financial statement on quarterly basis. So, they prepare their financial statement on quarterly basis. So, they have to report on quarterly basis. Following the principles of recognition and measurements as laid down in Index 109, you are required to report, you are required to record the entries for each quarter. Because quarterly financial statement is prepared because it's a listed company, that's why they are preparing their financials on a quarterly basis. So they have to record all the entries on each quarter till the date of actual purchase, that is on 31st December 2023. So for the purpose of accounting, please use the following information representing mark to market fair value. This amount is the margin amount. It is in rupees, not in dollar. The value of contract at each reporting date, that is on 31st March 2023, it becomes 25,000 loss. At on 30th June, it becomes 15,000 loss, and on 30th September, it becomes 12,000 profit. So this will be the entry, and the spot rate on the date of USD on 31st 12 2023 is rupees 66 per USD. So it becomes 66 per USD, and the date on that is on initial date when the contract is prepared, the amount, the dollar will be rupees 68 per USD, but the spot rate On 31st 12/2023, it becomes rupees 66 per USD. Now, how we will recognize these changes in a currency? How we will recognize in the financial? Suppose S Limited enter a contract with bank on 1st January 2023 to purchase 20,000 USD. 68 on 31st 12. They had entered into a contract. It's a forward contract because they entered into a contract today in order to purchase that currency in future. The price is decided today at rupees 68 per USD, and the number of USDs, that is how many currency they will purchase, that is also decided. So the rate of USD on 31st 12 2023 becomes 66. So when the contract is prepared, the rate of USD is 68. Means at 68 rupees per USD they had entered into a contract. But actually on 31st December, the rate of USD falls down from 68 to 66. The contract is a derivative. Yes, it's a derivative because it derives its value from the underlying asset. Here, what is underlying asset? Here, currency is a underlying asset, and on that currency, the derivative is a topping on that currency. Like they will derive its value from that currency. Is settlement happen in future date? Yes, in this case, settlement is happen in future date. That is on the contract is prepared on 1st January and the settlement happens on 31st December 2023. Is amount paid initially is nil or insignificant because no amount is paid initially. So it's fulfill all the conditions of derivative definition of derivative. So it's a derivative transaction. Therefore, it is a derivative contract as per the definition of derivative. Now, we will check whether it's a financial asset derivative, whether it's a financial liability derivative, whether it's a equity or non-financial item. How we will check that? Whether it is a financial derivative or it's a financial liability derivative. In case of asset, in case of gain, it becomes a financial asset derivative. In case of loss, it becomes a financial liability derivative. And whether it's a equity or non financial item, so we will check at initially only. That is, in case of equity, it is not an equity because settlement is not in own equity instrument. As in the definition of equity, it says that settlement happens in own equity shares. Settlement happen because the settlement happen in the exchange of currency, which depends on the currency price index. So settlement is happen on currency. That's why it is not an equity. It is not settled in own equity instruments. Whether it's a non-financial item, it is not a non-financial item because settlement happens in a currency, in exchange of currency. It is not a non-financial item because settlement happen in exchange of currency. Means in this case, the settlement is happen in a exchange of currency, so it is not a non-financial item. Because in case of non-financial item, there is a physical delivery of goods, but in case of in this case, there is no physical delivery of goods. There is a exchange of currency, and because settlement happen in exchange of currency, that is, in one part there is an obligation to deliver cash, and in another part there is a right to receive cash. So in exchange of both the currencies, so it does not satisfy the condition related to non-financial item. So it is not a non-financial item because settlement happen in exchange of currency. Therefore, it could be maybe a financial asset or financial liability. It may be a financial asset or financial liability. Let me check out whether it's a financial asset or liability. In case of gain, is a asset derivative. In case of loss, it is a liability derivative. So let's check out in the form of journal entries whether there is a gain or loss in various situations. Like on 1st January 2023, at the time of initial recognition, no entry is required to pass because it's a contract. It's a derivative contract. No initial amount is paid. No actual anything is received. So no entry is required to be passed. But on 31st March 2023, there is a loss. On 31st March 2023, there is a loss on derivative account, 25,000 का loss हुआ mark to market. How it is to be determined? Like at what the rate of contract is 68 per USD, and the contract is prepared for $20,000. So it becomes 20,000 into 68. What it becomes? 13 lakh 60,000. It becomes 13 lakh 60,000. Loss is of 25,000. So how it is to be determined, at what rate? Like 1360 minus 25,000, it becomes 13 lakh 35,000. So the rate of per unit of currency becomes 66.75. So 66.75 is the rate on 31st March 2023. So there is a loss of 25,000. How it becomes 68 में आपने एंटर किया, आपको लॉस हो गया ₹1.25 पर करेंसी पर यूएसडी पे. तो टोटल लॉस कितना हुआ आपको? आपने एंटर किया कॉन्ट्रैक्ट at 68 rupees per USD, 20,000 कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, तो 13,60,000. उस पर लॉस हुआ 25,000 का ऑन 31st मार्च 2023. सो लॉस माइनस कर देंगे तो उसका फेयर वैल्यू ऑन 31st मार्च कितना था? 13,35,000 हुआ. 13,35,000 तो पर यूनिट का कितना हो गया? डिवाइड कर दीजिए तो 66.75 पर यूनिट का रेट हो गया. आपने एंटर किया 68, तो लॉस कितना हुआ? 1.25. 1.25 into 20,000, it becomes 25,000. Means we had done a back calculation of, in order to understand how this 25,000 came. So this is a back calculation to understand. So in this case, the entry will be, there is a loss of 25,000. So loss on derivative account debit in PL, that is 25,000, to derivative financial liability, that is 25,000. 30 June 2023, there is again a loss of 15,000. Means there is a loss of 25,000 which we had booked earlier on 31st March. Now there is a loss of 15,000. Now how it is to be determined? 15,000 का लॉस दिखा रहा है मार्क टू मार्केट में. तो आप क्या करोगे? उसको आप रिवर्स कर दोगे आप टू द एक्सटेंट, बिकॉज 15,000 आपने उसको रिवर्स कर दिया. आपने 25,000 का लाइबिलिटी दिखाया पहले 31st मार्च को, उसमें से अब 30 जून को 15,000 का लाइबिलिटी जो ऑलरेडी आपने पहले बुक किया था उसको आप रिवर्स कर दोगे. सो देयर इज अ गेन ऑफ कितना? 10,000, बिकॉज 15,000 का सेटलमेंट हो चुका, लाइबिलिटी ऑलरेडी बुक्ड है. अब आपका लाइबिलिटी जो है लॉस घट गया है, 25,000 से घट के 15,000 हो गया. तो कितना गेन बुक करेंगे? आप गेन बुक नहीं कर सकते. आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा? जो डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल लायबिलिटी ऑलरेडी बुक अर्लियर, उसको आप रिवर्स करना पड़ेगा टू द एक्सटेंट आपने जो बुक किया है लायबिलिटी को, उतना आपको मतलब रिवर्स करना पड़ेगा. तो आपका जो लॉस है वो 15,000 का, तो ऑलरेडी बुक्ड है 25,000, तो बाकी जो जितना एक्स्ट्रा है वो आपका क्या हो गया? गेन हो गया. तो गेन तो आप बोलोगे नहीं, उसको बोलोगे रिवर्सल ऑफ डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल लायबिलिटी. तो डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल लायबिलिटी अकाउंट डेबिट करोगे बाई 10,000, बिकॉज आप जितना बचा हुआ अमाउंट है उसको आप रिवर्स कर दोगे. तो मतलब वापस आपको बुक नहीं करना है लॉस 15,000 का। आप क्या जितना आपका 15,000 का लॉस दिखा रहे, बिकॉज 25,000 ऑलरेडी आपने दिखा चुके। अब क्या हो गया, लॉस 15,000 हो गया। तो बाकी का जो रिमेनिंग अमाउंट है 25 माइनस 15, 10,000 जो है वो आपका गेन हो गया एक तरह से। तो वो जो लायबिलिटी आप ऑलरेडी बुक किए उसको रिवर्स कर दोगे। सो डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल लायबिलिटी अकाउंट डेबिट अप टू द एक्सटेंट दैट इज 10,000। तो 10,000 हो गया गेन ऑन डेरिवेटिव अकाउंट पीएल, वो गेन हो गया। Reversal of financial liability is also a gain. So now on 30th September 2023, now there is a gain of 12,000. Actual gain दिखा रहा है 12,000. Now on 30th September 2023, there is a gain of rupees 12,000. Mark to market gain on forward contract as per the fair value is 12,000 rupees 12,000. So how the accounting entry is to be done on 31st September 2023? The accounting is to be means the previous loss, the balance lying on the previous loss. Like there is a derivative financial liability which is existed in the balances like rupees 15,000, that is on 30th June 2023 there is a loss, mark to market loss is 15,000. So we reverse the 10,000 financial liability and balance 15,000 remain lying in the balance sheet. 30th September there is a gain of 12,000 also reversed, and also we will book again, that is firstly we will reverse the previous loss, that is derivative financial liability account debit, that is by 15,000, and we will book the new gain because it is a gain. So derivative financial asset previously because we have to settle the liability first. So in 30th September there is a gain of 12,000. It means the previous liability is also settled and the new gain arises of 12,000. So that gain becomes a derivative financial asset. So derivative financial liability we are going to reverse by 15,000 which is lying on the balance sheet. And we will recognize new financial asset, derivative financial asset by 12,000. So and the total amount is to be transferred to gain on derivative account, that is on PL by 27,000. So reversal of derivative financial liability is also a gain and derivative financial asset is also a gain. So both the amount is to be transferred to PL as gain on derivative account. Now on 31st December 2023, that is on settlement date, that is an actual delivery of transactions, that is on settlement date. In case of gross settlement, we will discuss both the settlement. In case of gross settlement, if it is settled on a gross basis, then it is an exchange of currency in exchange of another currency. Like we will settle, we will pay to the bank, that is the contracted amount, that is 20,000 into 68, that is 13,60,000, and we will receive the currency of the amount that is existed on that date, on the date of settlement. So we will receive, that is $20,000 at the rate 66. So we are receiving 13,20,000 and we are paying 13,60,000 as per the contract. So the differential amount is whatever the asset is existed, derivative asset, because we had reversed the financial liability, only there is a derivative financial asset balance remain in the balance sheet which becomes 12,000. So on the final settlement, that is on the settlement date, we will reverse that derivative financial asset. So we will credit the amount by 12,000 and the total amount, that is the balancing figure, becomes the loss on derivative account debit, and it will be transferred to P&L because 12,000 is the derivative financial asset is also, and the actual loss 13 lakh 60 माइनस 13 lakh 20 तो 40,000। तो टोटल लॉस कितना हो गया? टोटल जो एक्चुअल लॉस उसका है 40,000 का, और बिकॉज सिर्फ बैलेंस शीट में डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल एसेट खड़ा था जो उसने रिवर्स कर दिया इनके एट द टाइम ऑफ सेटलमेंट, तो उसका एक्चुअल में लॉस हो गया। एक्चुअल में लॉस 40,000 का ही हुआ है, बट यहाँ पे लॉस ऑन डेरिवेटिव बिकॉज वी आर एडजस्टिंग द डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल एसेट, सो लॉस ऑन डेरिवेटिव पीएल में ट्रांसफर करेंगे 52,000। सो इन केस ऑफ ग्रॉस सेटलमेंट ऐसे सेटल्ड होगा, बट इन केस ऑफ नेट सेटलमेंट में क्या होता है कि आप बैंक के पास जा रहे हो, बैंक को बोल रहे हो कि आप मुझे डिफरेंशियल अमाउंट दे दीजिए। सो क्या हो रहा है कि बैंक क्या कर रहा है, उसके पास ऑब्लिगेशन या तो पे करने का है या रिसीव करने का है, राइट टू रिसीव। तो इन दिस केस देयर इज एन, बैंक के पास क्या है, बिकॉज आपको लॉस हुआ है तो बैंक के पास क्या है, राइट टू रिसीव। राइट टू रिसीव है, एंड यू इन योर केस यू आर ऑब्लाइज टू पे। सो कितना पे करोगे, डिफरेंशियल अमाउंट दैट इज 20,000 इंटू 2 40,000 पे करोगे, और जो डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल एसेट है उसको रिवर्स कर दोगे एट द टाइम ऑफ सेटलमेंट। तो लॉस कितना बुक करोगे, लॉस ऑन डेरिवेटिव अकाउंट डेबिट 40 प्लस 12 दैट इज 52,000। So in this way you will settle the entry in case of gross settlement and in case of net settlement. So the concept of own use exemption. How the own use exemption for sale and purchase of non-financial instrument. What is the concept? Means we will discuss the concept of own use exemption for sale and purchase of non-financial instrument. Non-financial instrument like property, plant, equipment, inventory, commodity. These are the non-financial assets. So exemption is provided by Ind AS 109 in case of purchase of non-financial items. Like if you purchase any non-financial item like PPE, WIP, intangibles, inventories, commodities, means all kind of fixed assets, both tangible and intangibles, and inventories, commodities. These are the non-financial instruments. So exemption is provided by Ind AS 109 for the purchase of non-financial item. There is a separate standard for the non-financial items. Like for PP, there is a separate standard. For inventory, there is a separate standard. And commodity is also a non-financial item, because commodity, in exchange of commodity like wheat, sugar, any kind of commodity is there. So it is also exempt by Ind AS 109, where the contract for purchase of non-financial asset have been entered into and settlement takes place in physical form, because in non-financial asset settlement always happens in a physical form. Purchase of any assets, it is in physical form. So where the contract for purchase of non-financial asset have been entered into and settlement takes place in physical form, such contract shall be accounted as normal sale and or purchase contract and not a derivative contract. So such contract shall be accounted as normal sale purchase and not a derivative contract. So where the contract for purchase of non-financial asset have been entered into and settlement takes place in physical form, such contract shall be accounted as normal sale or purchase contract and not a derivative. It's a, means if any purchase of non-financial asset entered into any contract for for the purchase of non-financial asset entered into, and so it's a contract of normal sale purchase. It is not a derivative. The above example is to be explained in case of commodity, where wheat forward contract, that is in case of wheat dealer. Suppose there is a wheat dealer, and in case of commodity, wheat dealer enter into a forward contract, wheat forward contract. So how it is to be settled, if it is settled, how it is to be accounted, whether own use exemption is provided in gross settlement or in case of net settlement. In case of gross settlement, The own use exemption is provided in case of commodity, in case of non-financial asset. If it is settled on a gross basis, then own use exemption is given, is provided by Ind AS 109. Why in case of gross settlement? Because in case of gross settlement, there is a physical delivery of goods in exchange of cash. In exchange of cash, there is a physical delivery of goods. So in case of gross settlement requiring delivery of product to you for own use, means if the company is purchasing any goods for its own use, this is a contract entitled to purchase non-financial items because there is a physical movement of goods. So it's a non-financial instrument and hence it is not covered because Ind AS 109 had exempted the non-financial items. They had provided an own use exemption to the item covered for the purchase of non-financial item, and it is not covered under Ind AS 109 as there is no obligation to deliver cash. In this case, there is a contract to purchase 20,000 kgs of wheat at the rates rupees 68 per kg, which is a non-financial item. It is an executory contract till the date of settlement. No entry is required to be passed for change in fair value as this transaction is not covered under Ind AS 109. Only Ind AS 109 only covers financial instrument. They do not cover non-financial instrument. No fair value movement is required. So in case of commodity, in case of non-financial, in case of commodity, there is a physical movement of there is a physical delivery of goods. So it is a non-financial item. So it is exempted by Ind AS 109 as own use exemption. So the accounting entry in case of gross settlement will be purchase of wheat because it is a physical delivery. It is like an inventory transaction. So purchase of wheat account debit on actual delivery, that is on 31st, because the contract is for 6 months, maybe for 6 months. So on the date of settlement, the entry will be purchase of wheat account debit, that is by the amount which is actually contracted, that is 20,000 kgs at the rate 68 per kg. So it becomes 13,60,000, and there is a movement of cash or creditor. Maybe it's a creditor. The purchase is on credit basis, or may be paid fully. So the entry will be 13,60,000. It will be accounted as per Ind AS 2 as per inventories. But in case of net settlement, it is delivered because it is net settled. There is no actual movement of goods. It is settled because in one hand there is an obligation to deliver cash, and in another hand there is a right to receive cash. So it is covered under Ind AS 109 for commodity contract. Example like Z Limited entered into a contract on 1st October 2023 for importing oil with Y Limited. The date of delivery of oil is 31st December 2023. And 100 metric tons of is purchased, is contracted. The USD becomes 400 per USD, means per metric ton. The price of the per metric is 400 USD, and the purchase the contract is for 100 metric tons. The total amount becomes 100 metric tons into USD 400 per metric ton, so it becomes 40,000 USD. Now the settlement is to be taking place on net basis, and 40% of the contract is to be settled on a net basis. As per the past practice of the organization, they will settle their contract. Generally, they will settle their contract on net basis. 40% of the contract is to be settled on net basis. In case there is a settlement takes place on net basis, so it is covered by Ind AS 109. As it is it is a commodity transaction and covered by Ind AS 109, and the moment it is a currency transaction, it is a foreign currency transaction, so there is a movement of currency, and the settlement takes place on net basis. Such contract will be accounted as a derivative contract, and all the derivative contract is routed through fair value through profit and loss account. So such contract will be recognized at fair value through profit and loss account. Such contract will be accounted as derivative contract because the settlement takes place on a net basis. Own use exemption for purchase of non-financial asset cannot be applied in these cases because it's a non-financial asset. We know that because there is a importing of goods. But in these cases, own use exemption is not provided by Ind AS, is not available by Ind AS, which is provided by Ind AS 109 in case of commodity transaction because the settlement takes place on a net basis. Oil has been purchased from domestic producer. 50 metric tons at the rate rupees 3000 per metric ton, that is rupees 15,000. In this case, what happened? Oil has been purchased from domestic producer, which is an India-based company. They had purchased 50 metric tons at the rate rupees 3,000 per metric ton. That is rupees 15,000. The contract is prepared for 50 metric tons of oil at the rate 3,000 per metric ton. And the settlement, it was a commodity forward contract, so the settlement takes place as per the past practice of the organization. Settlement always takes place on a net basis, like 1% of the settlement takes place on net basis and 99% is to be settled on gross basis. So in these cases, as per the past practice of the company, only 1% is settled on a net basis and 99% is settled on a gross basis. So how it is to be evaluated? Company will able to take own use exemption because in this case 99% is settled on a gross basis. It is not accounted as per derivative because in case of gross settlement of a commodity, own use exemption is provided by the Ind AS 109. So not to be accounted as derivative because own use exemption is given to the gross settlement in case of commodity. As per the past practice of the company, which shows the policy of 99% contract is to be settled because 99% is to be settled on a gross basis. As per the past practice of the company, it is not to be accounted as derivative. So own use exemption, because of own use exemption provided by Ind AS 109, it is not to be accounted as derivative in case of gross settlement. Now example 3. Company has a contract to purchase a commodity. Company has contracted to purchase a commodity 50 metric tons at the rate USD 5,000 per metric ton. So company has make a contract to purchase commodity of 50 metric tons. The USD, it was in foreign currency, denominated in foreign currency, that is USD 5,000 per metric ton. So total USD becomes 2,50,000 USD. As per the past practice of the company, it should be settled on a net basis. It should be settled on a net basis. So it is a derivative contract and accounted through FBTPL. It is a derivative contract, so it is a derivative contract and accounted because as per the past practice, it is settled on a net basis. In case of commodity, if settlement happens on a net basis, there is a obligation on one hand to pay right to receive cash on the other hand. So in this case, in case of commodity settlement happening on net basis, so it is a derivative contract and always accounted through ABTPL. This is a concept of own use exemption. In this way, on gross settlement, own use exemption is provided, and on net settlement, it is a derivative transaction accounted through fair value through profit and loss account. We will discuss some of the cases related to option with examples, so it will be more clear. Option में क्या होता है? It is favorable. It is always favorable in the holder's hand and unfavorable to the option writer. So जो भी ऑप्शन बाय करता है उसके पास राइट रहता है टू परचेज और टू सेल. वो फेवरेबल सिचुएशन में ऑलवेज रहता है. सपोज एस लिमिटेड एंटर ऑप्शन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट विद बैंक on 1st January 2023 to purchase 20,000 USD at the rate rupees 68 per USD. करेंसी उसने करेंसी का ऑप्शन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट खरीदा बैंक से on 1st January 2023 at the rate rupees 68 per USD, which is to be executed or which is to be settled on 31st December 2020. तो ऑप्शन है ये 1 साल का ऑप्शन है 12 मंथ्स का जो उसने परचेज किया है जो कि करेंसी का ऑप्शन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ है 20,000 USD at the rate 68 per USD. In case of option holder has a right to exercise or not. और जो राइटर रहता है उसके पास ऑब्लिगेशन रहता है इन केस अगर होल्डर का फेवरेबल है तो राइटर का ऑलवेज अनफेवरेबल सिचुएशन रहेगा. तो अगर होल्डर एक्सरसाइज करता है ना राइटर उसको डिनाई नहीं कर सकता. उसके पास उसको वो ऑब्लाइज्ड है टू पे कैश. सो एस लिमिटेड पे रुपीज इसके लिए क्या करता है एस लिमिटेड होल्डर कुछ प्रीमियम अमाउंट पे करता है राइटर को कि वो अपने लॉस को थोड़ा कम कर सके. सपोज एस लिमिटेड पे रुपीज बिकॉज वो होल्डर ऑलवेज इन फेवरेबल सिचुएशन so he pays some premium amount to the writer. S Limited pay rupees 10,000 as option premium on at the time of making contract, that is on 1st January 2023. Spot rate on 31st 12 2023 is rupees 66 per USD. For the purpose of accounting, please use the following information representing mark to market fair value of forward contract as each reporting date. As on 31st March 2023, there is a loss of rupees 25,000. As on 31st, because it's a limited company, reporting is to be made on a quarterly basis, and if there is a change in fair market value in case of option contract also, different fair values on mark to market is to be given on a quarterly basis because accounting is to be prepared on a quarterly basis because it's a limited company. As on 31st March 2023, there is a loss, mark to market loss is rupees 25,000. As on 30th June 2023, there is a loss of 15,000. As on 30th September 2023, there is a profit of 12,000. Spot rate of USD on 31st 12 2023 is rupees 66 per USD. So it is a derivative. Whether it's a derivative contract, yes, it's a derivative contract. How? It is whether it is an underlying asset. Yes, in this case, currency is an underlying asset. How it is to be derivative contract because it derives its value from its underlying asset. So it's a derivative contract. In this case, currency is an underlying asset. If settlement happens at a future date, yes, settlement happens on a future date, that is on 31st 12 2023. Is any amount paid is nil or insignificant? Yeah, amount paid like option premium is paid which is insignificant, which is immaterial. So insignificant amount is to be paid in this case because the option premium of amounting rupees 10,000 is to be paid. Therefore, it's a derivative contract as per the definition. Now, how it is to be accounted for? Generalities for that. In this case, whether whether there is any accounting entry on 1st January 2023 when you have entered into the option contract, then what you are going to pay? You are just paying the premium amount. So how you will make an accounting entry of that? Because it's a kind of investment in option contract, and the premium which is to be paid is treated as a fair value. So derivative financial account debit by 10,000 to bank account, because it's a investment in option contract. It's a kind of amount, token amount is to be paid for investment in option contract. In case of favorable situation only, the option is exercised. So on in case of loss, that is on 31st March 2023, the loss on fair value of USD is rupees 25,000. In case of loss, option holder will not exercise, because option holder, in case of option holder has the right to exercise the option if he found any favorable situation. So it is not a obligation in the hand of option holder, it's a right in the hand of the option holder whether he will exercise or not, and he will always exercise in a favorable situation. But in this case, on 31st March 2023, there is a loss situation, so he will not exercise the option. So in case of forward contract, there is an obligation to buy, but in case of option contract, फॉरवर्ड कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में आपके पास आपको ऑब्लिगेशन ही है, आपको खरीदना पड़ेगा, बट ऑप्शन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में ऐसा नहीं है, देयर इज नो ऑब्लिगेशन टू बाय. अगर आपका फेवरेबल सिचुएशन है तभी आपके पास बाय करने का राइट है, अनफेवरेबल सिचुएशन है कोई ऑब्लिगेशन नहीं है. And hence, in case of loss S limited, that is the option holder will not exercise the option. Now accounting entry will be, जो आपने ऑप्शन प्रीमियम पे किया है उसको आप रिवर्स कर दीजिए. सो वॉट एवर द एसेट यू हैड रिकॉग्नाइज्ड अर्लियर एज अ प्रीमियम, वो प्रीमियम तो आपका लॉस में चला गया, पीएल में एज लॉस बुक हो गया, तो उसको आपको, बिकॉज 31st मार्च को तो लॉस हो गया था, तो लॉस हो गया तो जो प्रीमियम अमाउंट है वो तो चला गया. तो फेयर वैल्यू लॉस पीएल अकाउंट डेबिट बाय 10,000 टू डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल एसेट, रिवर्स कर दीजिए एंट्री. लॉस विल बी बुक्ड अप टू द अमाउंट ऑफ एसेट रिकॉग्नाइज्ड अर्लियर, मतलब एसेट जितना हमने रिकॉग्नाइज किया था उतना ही आप लॉस, बिकॉज आपका तो 25,000 लॉस हुआ है, तो आप तो एक्सरसाइज ऑप्शन करोगे नहीं, तो आपको तो लॉस कितना बुक करना, जितना एसेट बुक किया उसको रिवर्स कर दीजिए. ऑन 30 जून 2023 फिर आपको लॉस हुआ है, लॉस कम हो गया, द लॉस ऑन फेयर वैल्यू ऑफ यूएसडी बिकम 15,000. फिर ऑप्शन होल्डर के हाथ में है कि वो एक्सरसाइज करे, लॉस केस में वो एक्सरसाइज नहीं करेगा. फेयर वैल्यू इज नील इन केस लॉस के केस में ऑप्शन होल्डर विल नॉट एक्सरसाइज द ऑप्शन. सो नो एंट्री इन केस, इन दिस केस, बिकॉज वो जब एक्सरसाइज ही नहीं करेगा ऑप्शन, और ऑलरेडी वो डेरिवेटिव जो उसके बैलेंस पड़ा था उसको उसने रिकॉग्नाइज कर लिया, ऑलरेडी पीएल में ट्रांसफर कर चुका, बैलेंस कुछ नहीं है, तो नो एंट्री इज रिक्वायर्ड टू पास एज द डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल एसेट इज ऑलरेडी जीरो. ऑन 30 सितंबर 2023 अब उसको गेन हुआ है ऑप्शन में, अब वो रिकॉग्नाइज करेगा. गेन ऑन फेयर वैल्यू ऑफ यूएसडी इज रुपीज 12,000. अब उसको करेंसी में 12,000 का मार्क टू मार्केट गेन हुआ है. तो इन केस अब ऑप्शन होल्डर गेन के केस में उसके पास राइट है, इन प्रॉफिटेबल सिचुएशन ही विल एक्सरसाइज द ऑप्शन. सो अब अकाउंटिंग एंट्री वो डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल एसेट अकाउंट डेबिट बाय 12,000, बिकॉज जीरो तो ऑलरेडी हो चुका है, 12,000 उसको गेन बुक करना है, तो फाइनेंशियल एसेट वो गेन बुक करेगा. डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल एसेट अकाउंट डेबिट टू फेयर वैल्यू गेन पीएल अकाउंट बाय 12,000. और दैट इज अब सेटलमेंट डेट, दैट इज ऑन 31/12/2023 सेटलमेंट डेट पे वो कैसे सेटल करेगा. फेयर वैल्यू ऑफ यूएसडी इज ₹66 पर डॉलर. नाउ फेयर वैल्यू ऑफ यूएसडी इज ₹66 पर डॉलर. इन दिस केस holder will not exercise the option as there is a loss. Fair value of USD is ₹66. per dollar. In this case, holder will not exercise the option as there is a loss. अब यहाँ पे क्या हुआ, आपने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किया था 68 का, अब करेंसी का वैल्यू कम हो गया, 66 हो गया, तो होल्डर तो एक्सरसाइज करेगा नहीं, बिकॉज उसका कॉन्ट्रैक्ट था खरीदने का 68 में, और अभी मार्केट में उसको 66 रुपीज में अभी उसका वैल्यू हो गया, तो वो क्या, वेदर ही विल एक्सरसाइज, वो अगर परचेज 68 दे के परचेज भी कर लेता है, तो वो जब सेल करेगा वो 66 में सेल करेगा क्या, उसका तो वैल्यू कम हो गया. तो इन केस ऑफ लॉस, होल्डर विल नॉट एक्सरसाइज द ऑप्शन बिकॉज फेयर वैल्यू ऑफ द करेंसी ऑन सेटलमेंट डेट बिकम 66, और उसने ऑलरेडी ऑप्शन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करके रखा है एट द रेट 68, so he will not exercise the option. No entry is required to pass as the option is not exercised. एक्सरसाइज ही नहीं किया है, परचेज ही नहीं किया, तो कोई एंट्री का दरकार नहीं है. बस उसने जो डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल एसेट एज ऑन जो गेन बुक किया था, डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल एसेट अकाउंट डेबिट बाय 12,000 ऑन 30 सितंबर 2023 को, उसको रिवर्स करना पड़ेगा, उसको लॉस में डालना पड़ेगा. ओनली रिवर्सल एंट्री इज रिक्वायर्ड टू बी पास which is created earlier on 30 September 2023 because option is not exercised. Because option exercise नहीं हुआ, तो ये जो डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल एसेट एडजस्ट नहीं हो पाएगा, तो वो बैलेंस खड़ा है बुक्स में, तो उसको लॉस में डालना पड़ेगा. एंड द बैलेंस लाइंग इन डेरिवेटिव एसेट, सो इट शुड बी रिवर्स. अब रिवर्सल एंट्री पास करनी पड़ेगी. रिवर्सल एंट्री के केस में फेयर वैल्यू लॉस पीएल अकाउंट डेबिट बाई 12,000 टू डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल एसेट. लेकिन अब दूसरा सिचुएशन है, अगर उसको गेन हो जाता, जैसे 31 मार्च 2023 को उसको लॉस हुआ था 25,000, तो उसने ऑप्शन को एक्सरसाइज नहीं किया था. लेकिन अगर 31 मार्च 2023 को उसको अगर गेन हो जाता 12,000 का, तो वो क्या करता, ऑप्शन को एक्सरसाइज करता. ऑप्शन एक्सरसाइज करने से उसका क्या एंट्री होता, उसका डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल एसेट अकाउंट डेबिट कितना, क्योंकि उसने ऑलरेडी 10,000 ऑप्शन प्रीमियम पे कर रखा है, बिकॉज यहाँ पे तो गेन ऑन फेयर वैल्यू है, तो वो 10,000 तो ऑलरेडी एडजस्ट हो गया, और 2,000 जो एक्स्ट्रा है वो डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल एसेट में चला जाता, बिकॉज 10,000 उससे ऑलरेडी बुक कर रखा है, और अब गेन हो गया 12,000 का, तो 2,000 का अमाउंट ही तो और बुक करेगा बैलेंस लाने के लिए मार्क टू मार्केट में. तो डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल एसेट अकाउंट डेबिट करेगा 2,000 से टू, और वो जो गेन है उसको फेयर वैल्यू गेन पीएल में डाल देगा. गेन विल बी एडजस्टेड अप टू द अमाउंट ऑफ एसेट रिकॉग्नाइज अर्लियर एंड रीस्टेट करेगा उसको. 10,000 को रीस्टेट करके 12,000 कर देगा, बिकॉज देयर इज अ फेयर वैल्यू गेन, मार्क टू मार्केट में ले आएगा. लेकिन अगर वही गेन हमारा 4,000 हो जाता, तब कैसे एक्सरसाइज होता, तब क्या होता, अगर सिर्फ 4,000 का गेन होता है इंस्टेड ऑफ 12,000, सिर्फ 4,000 का ही गेन होता ऑन 31 मार्च 2023, तो उसने पहले डेरिवेटिव एसेट बुक करके रखा था 10,000 का, अब उसको कम करना है, उस गेन को, डेरिवेटिव एसेट को कम करना है, तो वो क्या करेगा, रिवर्स कर देगा. कितना से, रिवर्सल एंट्री करेगा. कैसे करेगा, वो रिवर्स करेगा लॉस बुक करके. तो कितना का लॉस करेगा, उसको अगर बैलेंस लाना है 4,000, तो रिमेनिंग 6,000 को उसको रिवर्सल एंट्री देनी पड़ेगी. तो वो क्या करेगा, फेयर वैल्यू लॉस पीएल अकाउंट डेबिट करेगा, लॉस बुक करेगा अप टू द एक्सटेंट 6,000 टू डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल एसेट को रिवर्स कर देगा, जो ऑलरेडी बुक अर्लियर था, बाई 6,000. तो बैलेंस जो आ जाएगा वो 4,000 का मार्क टू मार्केट बैलेंस. ये था ऑप्शन के केस में, अगर ऑप्शन होल्डर के पास राइट है टू एक्सरसाइज. अब हम लोग डिस्कस करेंगे अबाउट द ऑप्शन राइटर. द एग्जाम्पल इज टू बी एक्सप्लेन विद द हेल्प ऑफ ऑप्शन राइटर. के केस में अगर ऑप्शन राइटर के पास राइट है, तब क्या होगा, ऑप्शन राइटर ने अगर, मतलब ऑप्शन राइटर के पास ऑप्शन है, तब क्या होगा, अगर एस लिमिटेड ऑप्शन राइटर होता, तब वो क्या करता है. अब ऑप्शन राइटर के सिचुएशन पर्सपेक्टिव के हिसाब से हम लोग सोचेंगे. पहले ऑप्शन होल्डर के हिसाब से सोच रहे थे, अब ऑप्शन राइटर के हिसाब से सोचेंगे. सपोज एस लिमिटेड, दैट इज द ऑप्शन राइटर, entered option contract with bank, that is option buyer, on 1st January 2023 to sell 20,000 USD at rupees 68 per USD on 31st 12 2023. S Limited received rupees 20,000 as option premium on 1st January 2023. On the time of making contract, S Limited is the option writer in this case and bank is the option buyer. He wants to sell, S Limited want to sell 20,000 USD at rupees 68 per USD. The contract is for 12 months. That is on contract is settled on 31st December 2023. And in this case, option writer will receive, that is S Limited will receive rupees 10,000 as an option premium on at the time of making a contract, that is on 1st January 2023. Spot rate on 31st 12 2023 is rupees 66 per USD. Because it's a limited company, so accounting is to be done on a mark to market basis, that is quarterly reporting is to be prepared. As on 31st March 2023, there is a loss of rupees 25,000. On 30th June 2023, there is a loss of rupees 15,000. On 30th September 2023, there is a profit of 12,000 and the spot rate of USD on 31st 12 2023 is rupees 66 per USD. Now journal entry in the books of S Limited. अब S Limited के books में आप कैसे recognize करोगे? Because on 1st January 2023 उसने अमाउंट रिसीव किया, कितना का प्रीमियम अमाउंट, तो वो एक तरह से उसके लिए लायबिलिटी है, तो बैंक अकाउंट डेबिट करेगा, वो उसके पास पैसा आया टू डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल लायबिलिटी. अब ऑन 31st मार्च 2023 क्या है कि यहाँ पे उसको मार्क टू मार्केट लॉस हुआ 25,000 का. सो यहाँ पे क्या होगा, वेदर ही विल एक्सरसाइज और नॉट, ऑप्शन राइटर के पास, अगर ऑप्शन होल्डर का फेवरेबल सिचुएशन है तो ऑप्शन राइटर का तो लॉस सिचुएशन है, तो वो क्या करेगा, लॉस 25,000 का लॉस है, तो 25,000 में ऑलरेडी उसने डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल लायबिलिटी 10,000 के ऑलरेडी बुक कर चुका है वो, बिकॉज जिस टाइम प्रीमियम लिया था उसने, उस टाइम उसने डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल लायबिलिटी और बैलेंसिंग जो 15,000 है वो जो बुक करेगा वो लॉस बोल के बुक करेगा. फेयर वैल्यू लॉस पीएल अकाउंट डेबिट बाय 15,000 टू डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल लायबिलिटी, तो उसका टोटल हो जाएगा 10 प्लस 15, तो 25,000 हो जाएगा उसका जो फेयर वैल्यू मार्क टू मार्केट लॉस है. फिर ऑन 30 जून 2023 लॉस कम हो गया बाय 15,000, तो ऑलरेडी उसने 25,000 का लॉस बुक कर रखा है एज अ डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल लायबिलिटी बुक करके रखा है. अब उस डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल लायबिलिटी को वो रिवर्स कर देगा टू द एक्सटेंट 10,000, तो डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल लायबिलिटी अकाउंट डेबिट बाय 10,000 टू उसको क्या करेगा, गेन में डाल देगा, बिकॉज उसका लॉस कम हो गया फ्रॉम 25 टू 15. So derivative financial liability account debit by 10,000 to fair value gain 10,000. अब on 30 सितंबर 2023 को एक्चुअल में 12,000 का गेन हुआ है, वो जितना उसका लायबिलिटी खड़ा है ना उसको बस रिवर्स कर देगा, तो उसका 15,000 का लायबिलिटी खड़ा है फाइनेंशियल लायबिलिटी, तो उसको वो और उसको गेन फेयर वैल्यू गेन बोल के डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल लायबिलिटी अकाउंट डेबिट बाय 15,000 उसको फेयर वैल्यू गेन कर पीएल में डाल देगा, बिकॉज इन केस ऑफ 12,000 गेन हुआ है उसको, तो वो जितना भी उसको एग्जीक्यूट तो वो करेगा नहीं, तो जितना लायबिलिटी खड़ा है उसको रिवर्स कर देगा. तो डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल लायबिलिटी कितना खड़ा है, 10 प्लस 15, उसमें 10 को तो वो ट्रांसफर कर चुका और 15 बाकी है, 15 को वो डेरिवेटिव फाइनेंशियल लायबिलिटी अकाउंट डेबिट बाय 15,000 टू फेयर वैल्यू गेन बोल के उसको दिखा देगा. अब इनके अब ऑन सेटलमेंट डेट दैट इज ऑन 31st 12 2023 इन केस ऑफ ग्रॉस सेटलमेंट, इन केस ऑफ नेट सेटलमेंट. ग्रॉस सेटलमेंट में क्या है, को देना पड़ रहे हैं, एस लिमिटेड विल अगर सेल करेगा तो उसके पास कितना आएगा, एस लिमिटेड जब सेल करेगा तो उसके पास कितना आएगा, उसके पास आएगा 13,60,000. एस लिमिटेड तो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किया 13,60,000 का, तो उसको तो देना पड़ेगा 13,60,000 और उसके पास आएगा 13,12,000 बिकॉज मार्केट रेट ही उतना है। तो लॉस ऑन सेटलमेंट कितना होगा? 40,000 उसको लॉस हो गया। और इन केस ऑफ नेट सेटलमेंट सिर्फ वो 40,000 का लॉस ही बुक करेगा। लॉस ऑन सेटलमेंट अकाउंट डेबिट बाई 40,000 टू बैंक अकाउंट, बिकॉज डिफरेंशियल अमाउंट को ही वो बुक करेगा नेट सेटलमेंट में। और ग्रॉस सेटलमेंट के केस में उसको देना भी पड़ता है कितना का, बिकॉज उसने जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किया है वो उतना उसको देना पड़ेगा। और जो मार्केट वैल्यू है, फेयर वैल्यू और स्पॉट रेट, उतना वो बुक करेगा। बैलेंसिंग रिमेनिंग अमाउंट इज टू बी treated as loss on settlement, that is वो ट्रांसफर करेगा पीएल में। थैंकिंग यू फॉर वॉचिंग माई वीडियो। इफ यू लाइक प्लीज शेयर सब्सक्राइब माई चैनल. We had discussed various topics on derivatives. Some more topics are yet to discuss on derivative, and some other topics, small topics on financial instrument are still left. We will discuss in two more videos, two more discussion. We will complete our financial instrument. Please share my channel and please subscribe my channel in order to grow my channel.